Well, hello and welcome everyone. I'm Heather Sherburne and I'm the academic officer for School Day Academy. I'm a lifelong educator who recently retired from being the assistant superintendent of curriculum, instruction, and technology for a mid-sized school district in California. And now I work for School Day Academy as their academic officer. And I am super excited to have you all join us for this amazing panel we have today. Um, we are going to learn from district leaders sharing their work creating strong internship and work-based learning programs. So I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. From Denver, Colorado, we have Monica Schultz. She's a senior manager for career navigation services. The Denver Public Schools Launch Internship Program is part of a broad spectrum of work-based learning programming offered by the DPS Career Development Team. Launch is a career-focused internship program offering an immersive experience whereby students gain firsthand exposure to a high-interest career field. Through this experience, high school students develop technical and transferable skills and gain valuable experience in internships aligned with industry clusters. Students earn fellowship grants or financial education awards and high school credit for successful completion of the program. Optional college credit is also available at no cost to the students. Then from the suburbs of Chicago, we have Dr. Nick Polyak. Nick is the superintendent of Leyden High School District 212 and was named the Superintendent of the Year. Leyden High School District 212's Career and Technical Education program stands out for its structured pathway endorsement system, where students complete a sequence of career courses, early college credit, and hands-on experiences tied to a specific industry. Distinctive features include coordinated internship opportunities, job-ready embedded credentials, and industry-relevant advisory panels and more. And then lastly, from Wyoming, we have Chase Christiansen. He's a school superintendent with extensive experience aligning K-12 education to workforce and community needs. As a district leader, he has championed career pathways, work-based learning, and partnerships that connect students to meaningful post-secondary opportunities. Chase brings a practical, rural-focused perspective to registered applicants, emphasizing access, sustainability, and alignment with local industries. He advocates for systems that prepare students for both college and high demand careers while strengthening local economies. So welcome to each of you and thank you for sharing your experiences with our audience today. We look really forward to learning from you. So one of the things that we want to talk about today is that the reality of internships is that they're pretty hard to do well. Internships are expanding across the country, but anyone who has tried to run one knows how complex they are. You have partnerships, logistics, preparation, equity, accountability, and it's a lot. They take a great deal of time and energy to do it well. So let's begin with that foundation of clear standards of quality. We know, as with anything, you have to have these clear standards of quality, such as defining learning goals and what meaningful work looks like, who and what types of supervision are helpful, and a continuous feedback loop that helps your programs evolve. Because you want it to be sustainable, so you need to define those things so that you know what high quality looks like. So I know that each of the districts on our panel today have made these intentional decisions about what qualifies as a high quality internship and what doesn't. So let's start with Monica. Can you give us a brief description of your program and talk a little bit about the criteria that define quality for your program and what meaningful work looks like? Are there things that are potential placements that are not considered high quality that you avoid?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Monica Schultz with Denver Public Schools. I did have oral surgery today, so when I smile, it's a little crooked. So I apologize up front. But I'm here, and as I told Heather, my brain is all good. It's just my face is going to look a little strange. So in terms of high quality, so we have some main components that we build into every internship. That is learning objectives. So 2 skill targets the student can demonstrate by the end of the internship that the supervisor evaluates them on at the end of the internship. We have a project, which is a chunk of work that a student owns as part of the internship that's going to benefit the company, but also provide a valuable learning experience. And then we also are really careful to listen in on the kinds of tasks that a partner is bringing forward in terms of what kind of work a student might do. So if there's a lot of focus on, repetitive, sort of low skilled types of tasks, then we might coach the partner to say, okay, what other things can we do to supplement that activity? Could the student, again, do a more robust project that's going to bring in some other kinds of experiences? Can we include some experiences going outside the office, or maybe attending some meetings, or just looking for ways that we can make sure that the student's getting a well-rounded experience and not something where it's more I want to say typical in terms of like, oh, it's a high school student, let's have them do paperwork, or let's have them do, sit at the desk all day. So we really tried to move away from that and also align it with the industry that the partner is bringing forward. So meaning when we talk to a partner, sometimes the work that they do personally is engineering, but they need someone to help them with social media. So we might align it more so with a creative industry rather than engineering itself. So given that we have that focus, that helps us with some of that coaching. Just in terms of our general program, and then I'll pass it on to my co-panelists here. We are year-round. We do fall, spring, and summer, and we typically serve between 475 and 500 students per year. Again, all students earn money, and they also earn high school credit.
Thank you. Nick?
Heather, could you frame the question for me again?
Sure. Could you just give us a little bit of a brief description of your program and the criteria that define quality for your program and meaningful work within your program and your placements? And are there things that make a placement not ideal or not high quality for your program?
Great. Yeah, I think our program, again, we're in suburban Chicago. We have about 3,500 high school students. We believe very passionately in removing barriers for students and giving them as many options as possible. And so I'll speak to our internships specifically. We have advisory boards for all of our career pathways that meet with us throughout the school year. And they help us with curriculum development. They help us with procurement of industry ready materials and machinery that's going to match what they have. But then the reciprocal part of that is those companies will then take our students for spring break and summer internships, where they're getting industry experience on the floor to see if this is a career they want to actually pursue. And so if our kids aren't picking that career, that starts to tell us we need to maybe look in another direction. If those industries are telling us we're hiring every kid you're giving us, we need more kids, then that drives our efforts. And so it's a constant recalibration of what's happening in the community where we exist and how do we program to plug our kids into that world.
Great, thank you. And Chase, tell us a little bit about your program and your quality criteria and meaningful work.
Absolutely. We've got many of the same elements that have been talked about, but we work regionally, and we've got a board that directs the work that includes 4 school districts, our local community college, and many of the employer entities within the area. One challenge that we face that hasn't been brought to light so far is just travel distance. The closest employer that's not a ranch for me is 28 miles, and many of my students are going to the town of Sheridan, which is 38 miles from us. And just travel time alone makes it so that we have to have a slightly different experience for our students than a lot of places where kids are diving out for 90 minutes to take part in an internship, that type of thing. I had a student come in this morning, and the conversation I had with him is pretty illustrative of how we operate. It's a one-to-one basis with our students. We work hard to get to know and understand their aptitudes and their interests. We've got assessments that help us with that, but we do that early or late in their middle school, early high school career. And then we've got job shadows in place. We've got opportunities for them to get out and talk to employers. We bring employers in every week for a program called Roads to Success, where we've got 38 different employers a year. And across a 7-year, 7-12 career, students are exposed to 400 employers across different industries, so they know what's available. We work hard to get to a point where we have 100% of our seniors taking advantage of a placement. And for me, that this year I had 10 seniors. That's an easy achievement, but we also see our partner districts do that, where they've got 300 seniors, and we're trying to get 250 to 300 kids out into these internship placements. The conversation I had this morning with a kid came in. He wanted to talk about his senior year. He's going to end up coming out here for mornings first semester. He's going to take his math, science, and English class. Then in the afternoon, he's going to go to work. And then second semester, he's going to work for 8 hours a day. And he's not even going to come out and be on campus unless something special pops up. So we work hard to do that. Our success is very important, that we balance the fact that our kids need to earn money with that they need to be working toward things that don't look like the repetitive ones that Monica pointed out. And for us, a lot of manufacturing jobs, we want to get them, we don't pull our kids in and be pushing a broom. Get them programming your CAD machines, programming your machines, and really learning the job throughout the system, sometime with management. But given that they're going to be there 8 hours a day, we're fine. If you want to stick them in to a repetitive task 4 hours and then pull them in with a manager for the afternoon, that type of thing works. We find the most important part is employer training on the front end. We require employers to come be part of an orientation and a training, and we share our expectations for the program with them. And then we work very hard to make sure that it's a synergy, right? That the employers don't feel like they are just giving to the kids or giving to the district, that they are getting a quality employee and they're benefiting from their work, but they're also providing a little bit of an education with that in turn. We have had luck. We work the same model as Monica pointed out, with everybody getting paid, but not all of our employers are willing to do that. So we've got grants through our workforce services that if an employer is not paying a student, we can provide them $18 an hour through our internship grant with state workforce services.
Wow, fantastic. So these are just great examples, and thank you so much. One of the things that we know in order to make an internship program is somebody has to really take ownership and coordination of the program. It doesn't just run on its own. Someone has to recruit the employers, place the students, solve problems, and track progress. So let's talk about how you build that kind of infrastructure and structure within your districts. Chase, we want to start with you, just saying who owns your program and how much time does it take to coordinate it, and how did you go about setting up your infrastructure and any kind of agreements you have?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about our board structure, the 4 districts together with the college, and we've got some local foundations and employers all together. That board makes most of the overarching decisions, and then the on-the-ground work. We've got a job coach embedded within each district that really does the work of recruiting employers to be part of the partnership, and then advertising to students, providing information about those opportunities to students so that they know what may be available. Students then apply for an internship and interview with the companies that they're going to go into, and then they move forward in that. To Nick's point a little earlier, he talked about the assignments that are part of what students are doing, or maybe Monica. We enroll concurrently our students with a college English class, and the assignments for that college English class are reflective of their work-based learning experience. I would say the most important one is a writing that they do that is a proposal to their employer that would improve the workplace in some way. And we've seen coming out of those projects, the proposals to employers it's something that the employer adopts immediately, and it's saving them $10,000 every 3 months as soon as they put it in place. All the way to, I had a student last semester propose that they were traveling a couple hours out of town each week for their work, and they were staying in hotels every night, and the work was going to be ongoing for like more than a year. So the kid just proposed that they buy a house, and the employer bought a house, and at the end of it, he talked to us about how much it had already saved him in cost of hotel, and it's not something that he had ever really thought about because he'd always operated just using hotels. So that's it. But on the front end, we use our board to establish relationships with employers. Job coaches then go out and make sure that kids are placed well, that they've got a good experience, and that employers know the expectations of what we're doing.
Great, thanks. And Nick, tell us a little bit about who owns your program and coordinates it.
Yeah, a lot of commonality, so I'll try not to repeat, but we have a full-time position with us called Director of Careers. Shout out to Frank Holthouse. He coordinates all of this work for our school district. We embedded this into our strategic plan, where we want 90% of our kids to get to some kind of capstone experience course, and that there's a variety of things that fall under that, but taking these internships is one example. Even to our students in our special education program, pairing them with job coaches and getting them employed either in roles within our school district or in businesses in the community. And so we're trying to be very comprehensive, but Frank used to have a job that was split. He was Director of Careers and Community Outreach, and he did a bunch of other things. And we've had to, because it's grown so big, we had to narrow it down, and he and his assistant really own the overarching of all this.
All right, thank you. And Monica, how about in Denver?
We're a little different. So first of all, our district's really huge. We have 90,000 students, and we're the largest employer in the state of Colorado. So got a lot of adults and a lot of young people. So we actually do it within the Career and College Success Department. We have a internship manager and then a program specialist that works with her. We have an outreach team that does all of our outreach for all 8 of our work-based learning programs. And then we have navigators that are folks who are housed in our high schools who actually do the recruitment, the support throughout the internship, the training, et cetera. So in terms of any agreements and compliance, we do offer work comp for all of our interns. So that's through our risk management department. We do have an agreement that everybody signs, parent, student, partner, our staff, so that everyone's on the same page in terms of basic expectations and roles and responsibilities. Over the years, that's gotten a little more legalistic as far as what parents are signing off on, but we have to do that as the landscape changes. Then we also have an additional agreement that we use called a partnership agreement, where if a partner wants to waive the requirement for a background check, they have to actually sign a contract in order to do that. Otherwise, we provide background checks for every adult that works directly and consistently with our students, and we pay the cost of that background check. And then the logistics are kind of handled at the school level, where the navigator is really working with the individual students and partner to coordinate in terms of first day planning, in terms of his schedule, and then stays engaged with the partner and student to provide support throughout in terms of any bumps that come up or doing problem solving as needed.
Great, thank you. So employer partnerships are often the biggest barrier that districts really talk about, is how hard it is to recruit them. And I know that strong programs don't just rely on luck. They build systems to recruit and onboard and retain partners. So you guys started to mention that in our conversations already, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you make partnerships work long-term and strategies that you use to recruit employer partners, and what do the employers expect from you if you have an orientation, those kinds of things. And let's start with Nick.
Yeah, Heather, I'm gonna go to kind of where Chase teed up earlier with CNC and manufacturing, where we're situated with the airport. We have 2 major train lines that cross. and multiple highways that crisscross. So we're literally like in the middle of planes, trains, and automobiles. And so that's bred a whole corridor of manufacturing companies. We've had for 30 years now, our advisory meets monthly with local businesses. And so the symbiotic relationship we've set up with them has been decades long. And so if we go, we'll take our kids on tours and site visits, and half the people that work in those companies are former students of ours that came through internships and programs. And so, I get scared sometimes, and I think about if we didn't program in a way that was symbiotic with our local needs, those companies would be closing because they couldn't find employees. And that would erode our tax base from underneath us. It would be sending jobs to other states or overseas. And so the real imperative behind this, I think, is powerful. And so we've just maintained, like, part of it is I doubled our facilities for manufacturing. We only had it at one high school. Now we have manufacturing labs at both high schools with both manual and CNC machining equipment for kids to learn on. We've added staff. And so it's a true partnership over long periods of time to get that sustained impact.
Great, thank you. Chase, how did you go about recruiting the partners that are sitting on your board and working with them?
I'm going to give credit there. We started this partnership. All four school districts and the college had work-based learning in place. But a few years ago, one of our local foundations came to everybody and said, we know you guys are doing a great job of this individually, but we'd like to get you all at the table to start to work on it on a more collective basis. And they brought us into the same room and have kept that going. They've kind of led the work to make it more of a we all work together piece, which has made it a whole lot easier on our employers, because rather than having 5 different systems with 5 different entities, now they've got one system that works across. They know if they're going to get a kid into an internship, it doesn't matter if it's a college student or a high school student. It doesn't matter if they're coming from District 1 or District 3 or our neighboring county. They're going to have the same paperwork, same type of thing. And that's really helped. The other piece that helps a ton is working with the industry work groups. We have a healthcare work group that, there are probably 20 employers that are part of it, and they meet monthly to discuss the outlook of the industry in the counties. And then there's another one that does advanced manufacturing that has 11 advanced manufacturers in it in our area, and they are meeting on a regular basis. So we're able to go to those meetings and be able to present to multiple employers at a time. Also, we've had past partnerships with many of them that we can lean on, because if we ask to place a kid and they say, well, we don't really have exactly what they're looking for, but we know that this company over here does, and they're working closely enough that they can give us those referrals. That's been important. One thing that has started to turn a corner for us is the type of data that we're collecting from our students. I talked about that aptitude and interest piece. We're now sharing that at our board meetings on the aggregated basis across our counties, and employers are beginning to ask. They say, we see that you've got 170 students graduating this year that have an interest and an aptitude in logistics. What employers in the area are involved in logistics? How can we get those kids lined up with that industry? And our Chamber of Commerce has been a terrific partner in placements in the past, but they're beginning to have conversations around, we've got these graduates coming forward, and like our 9th graders right now have a tremendous aptitude in this. Are we going to be able to maybe leverage that to recruit an employer to town that we may not have had in place otherwise? So it's turning into an economic development engine for our region. And employers are beginning to come to us, whereas previously it was always we had to go to them.
Wow, that's great. Thanks. And Monica, I'm sure with such a large district that you have some some recruitment strategies and things that make it really sustainable.
Yeah, so I would say First of all, the way that we determine how many internships we're going to do and in which industries, we base it primarily on which CTE pathways are offered at the high school. So we align it with what coursework is happening within the building. That's not exclusively the way that we align it, but that's kind of our primary thing to consider. And so that way we know exactly how many slots we need for fall, spring, and summer based on which industry, and then we actually go out and start recruiting. We start with our kind of, tried and true partners, and we make sure that we confirm with them whether they'd like to move forward, and then we start doing some additional outreach, primarily through our external partnerships team. So they do a lot of just broad recruitment, again, across all of our programs, but are at a lot of different chamber meetings and associations, all kinds of events to just kind of get the word out about our programming. I will say that we do a lot of work internally within Denver Public Schools. So we place kids in our bus depot, we place kids in the facilities management, we place kids in technology, we place kids in HR. So we have a lot of internal placements as well as those in the community. We also, because we have such a broad network of work-based learning programs, we might recruit partners who have already done some other programs that are more light touch and invite them to participate in the internship program that provides a more immersive experience. And then in terms of the onboarding, we do have a partner training. It's a webinar that is recorded. So we offer it 3 times in the summer, so different times a day, so everybody can participate. If they can't, we send the recording and the partner handbook to that partner, and it's on them to then get themselves caught up. And then in terms of retention, we do a partner recognition breakfast every year. We recognize the folks that are really going all out to support our students. And then we, I think that's it actually. We provide the training and then we do a lot of follow-up. I think that we have like a 90 to 92% completion rate in our district. And again, with 500 kids, that's pretty decent. And I think it's because we have so much high touch with the navigator being involved with the student throughout the internship to really provide extra support. And I think that's what also helps keeps our partners coming back.
Fantastic. So one of the fastest ways to lose an employer partner is placing a student who isn't ready. What do you all do to make sure that your students are ready? And tell me a little bit about what readiness looks like before you put them in a placement. Want to start with, how about Chase?
Yeah, Monica led us into this, I think, with talking about the CTE programs leading into internship. And I think the vast majority of our students are coming through that same pathway, right? We're utilizing our CTE programs, our CTSOs, and throughout our high school curriculum to teach life skills, to employability skills. We've got competitions for employability skills each year that our students take part in, starting in 7th grade, and are constantly working on presentation skills, communication skills, just ability to be a person that is going to be able to interact with people on the job site. And we talk to our students constantly that work ethic is more important than any single skill you're going to learn. If you've got work ethic and the ability to communicate, you're going to have everything an employer ever needs. And we practice that. We turn it into competitions, and our students are there. I tell our employer partners, as well as our students, that it's our students' job to make sure that that door is open for the next student. And they, just as you started us off, they have the opportunity to close that door. They have the opportunity to leave it open for the next one. And that's the first message and the last message I leave every student with that's going to start one of these internships for us. I also let our employers know that my expectation is that at the end of an internship experience, they're going to understand that our graduate is going to be the best hire that they could make.
That's fantastic. Nick, how about you?
I think we used to use the term soft skills. Now we call them essential skills, and people have called them all kinds of things. But there's some preparation we have to do with kids because, I grew up answering the phone at my house. All the Polyak residents, but kids don't have that experience. There's no house phone anymore. So we have to teach them how to have some of those interactions. We have to teach them how to make eye contact, how to shake hands with someone when you meet them. Those little things we have to build within them before we send them out. But we also hold them to high standards about attendance and discipline before we're going to deploy them out into our community. And so, like a couple examples, a little different than what we've been talking about, is we have two different education pathways, one for early childhood and one for primary and secondary. Our early childhood kids run a community preschool. So they're working with young children from within the community. Our secondary kids go out and work in classrooms in elementary and middle schools with former Leyden students that are now teachers, and they're doing mini student teaching. And so we're not going to send them there if their attendance has been horrible at school or their discipline has been horrible at school. And so, if this is what you want to do, we can work with them over a period and try to get them in a better position and then launch them. But we have to pay attention to those skills, because talking to our employers, they'll tell us, just give me a kid who shows up. We can do the rest. But if we have a kid who keeps calling in sick and isn't showing up and isn't respectful, they're going to turn them away right away.
Right. Thank you. Monica, what can you add?
So in Denver Public Schools, we have something called the traits of a young professional, and those are the skill sets that everybody uses, the job readiness types of skills. But they were a compilation of a bunch of different sets of those that we kind of vetted within our district. What's nice is those are the basis for the soft skill training within our CTE program. So our students are hearing about the traits as they go through their coursework. We also ask our partners, do you think that CTE coursework is required to be able to do this internship? And some say, not really. And others say, absolutely. So we always ask as we're onboarding a partner, and we make that very clear so that our students and our navigators know whether or not coursework is something that needs to be in place. And then we have modules that we provide to the students for skills training, is what we call it, of being a professional. So we have in-person component, which is about 2 hours, which includes the program orientation, but also the skills that we identified that a student really needs to know and have under their belt before they cross that start line. And then we have modules that are self-paced that are more high level in terms of things that they might encounter when they're actually engaging in the internship. So that's how we approach the training component for the student side.
Great, thank you.
Heather, I think
Go ahead.
One last important piece. I think it's always important to leave the employer with the idea that the student coming in is their employee. And if they're not meeting the expectations of employment, they should be fired.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, I know we touched on this a little bit, but sometimes internships can really be an opportunity for those students who are really well connected. But we want to think about equity and how do we make sure that we are providing these opportunities for students who might be facing various challenges so that they aren't just limited to well-connected students. Things like transportation, balancing academics with career kind of skills. And so, what are the kinds of things that you've done to really address those equity issues and extend your opportunities to students from all different walks? Want to start with you, Monica?
Sure. So we're really lucky in Denver Public Schools to be able to have a database that's quite robust. We use Salesforce in DPS, and it gives us actual day-to-day updates on where we are in terms of our recruitment. And we can drill down to how many special education students are we serving, how many students who are multilingual learners, how many students who are BIPOC or Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I can get a snapshot of that every single day and certainly every semester. And so what we do is our goal is to always mirror or exceed the district's percentages across the board. And so, for example, example, last year we were a little bit low in terms of special education. We were at like 11.8%. We should be at 14%. For multilingual learners, we were way over. So it every year, might shift a little bit, but we're constantly looking at those data points to make sure that we're not leaving out any students. And if we're starting to see a dip or a shift, that's an opportunity to then work with our navigators to then really bolster their efforts around which students they're thinking about for our programs. And we have a lot of tools to do that in terms of data for their entire school, pulling out certain populations, et cetera. In terms of transportation, even though we're a nice city and we have buses and all those good things, a student might travel as far as what Chase was describing in GPS. If you're coming from the airport and you got to go to Southwest Denver, you're going to be traveling 35 miles. So it's still a problem. We have addressed that with looking at, again, placements that are co-located with their school. So we try to center and be considerate of the distance from the school to that particular internship location. And this is sad, but we try to keep it to 1 hour one way at the max. So that's one of our considerations. We check bus schedules to make sure that it's accessible by bus. We also have introduced, in terms of scheduling flexibility, fully virtual, hybrid, and fully in-person internships. And that was a result of COVID. I was totally against a virtual internship until COVID forced my hand and made me look at it as an option. And we have created systems that we feel comfortable with where we offer all three. And that really helps, especially during the school year when kids don't necessarily have release time, so that they can get the office experience or the, on site experience, but also work virtually to accommodate some of their other constraints in terms of their schedule. I think those were the 3 points I wanted to make sure I hit. Thank you.
Cool. And Nick?
Yeah, I think an example I would share for this is we have a partnership with the Plumbers Union in Chicago, and amazing job opportunities, but our kids can't get there to their training facility. And so we created an opportunity in the evenings where we pay for the transportation to take them there. We pay a stipend to one of our employees to go with them on the bus, be with them during the program, bring them back home. And the result of that program is our kids get to the end of that class, the businesses come in and give them job offer letters, and they get to skip the line right into apprenticeship status.
Wow.
And so, it's about putting your money where your mouth is on these things. So we've never budgeted before to drive kids downtown to the Plumbers Union or to stipend a teacher, but it's the right thing to do to remove those barriers and plug them right into those jobs. And not every kid that goes there ends up becoming a plumber, but some of them do fall in love with the trades, and they've gone to other areas, electricians and carpenters. And so we're constantly looking to grow that.
Right. Thank you. Chase?
I think I'm on the other end of the spectrum from Monica in terms of the operation of my district. I've got 60 students, and I talked earlier about my seniors. I've got 10 this year, and for me, it really is a personal conversation. I visit with each of the seniors. I talked earlier that we want to get 100% of our students taking advantage of work-based placement. Everything that we've talked to goes into that, but scheduling flexibility, I will make anything work. If a kid knows they want to go to a 4-year university as soon as they graduate, but they want to take advantage of an internship, they can't take a single period away from school because they've got important classes they want to take. We've got a 4-day school week. Go do your internship on a Friday, Saturday. We make that work for them. Transportation wise, most of my seniors are driving themselves, and the fact that we're putting them into a paid internship, they are driving themselves to their internship placement in most cases. That helps a little bit when I don't require them to come to school first. They can go straight from home to their work site and back home, rather than having to try to travel out here or the opposite direction from where they would be going to work. The inclusive piece, again, we try to involve everybody. That's just kind of where we're at. And for the few students I have that are struggling with what we talked about on the last slide, of having the skills necessary to go out and perform well in a successful placement, we try to place those students internally. Like we have our maintenance custodial department kitchen. I've had students just placed into a teaching with one of my elementary teachers where they go in and they do reading interventions with our kindergartners or our first graders, and we continue to try to build those employability skills while they're in an internship, but it's in an internship with us where we know educators might be just slightly more forgiving than your average employer.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So we know that trust is built through structure, and you guys have talked about a lot of the things that you have in place. Just real quickly, is there any non-negotiable that you have to have in place in terms of an agreement or tracking hours, those kinds of things? Any non-negotiable that you have to have? Nick?
Nothing's coming to mind right away when I hear that question,
Okay.
because I think the non-negotiable maybe is that we remain flexible and adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
The needs and opportunities today are different than what's going to be there 2 years from now. And so we have to be the adaptable one. The kids are here at the time that they're here. We can't stay set in our ways. So we have to be willing to keep adapting alongside them and alongside the world and the job market.
Awesome. Thank you. And I know I've heard that flexibility with everybody. I think that's so important. Then when you're looking at your program, to sustain and scale internships, you have to have data points that you're tracking, and you've talked a little bit about that. But what are the specific types of outcomes that you're tracking to know that your program has been successful? Chase?
Yeah, right now we're tracking mostly participation data. We have the front end data of what were those aptitudes and interests that a student demonstrated? Were they placed into an internship that matched those? What we're missing, and I want to find a good way to track, is what you've got there at the bottom is the post graduation outcomes. We want to know, did a student taking part in an internship for a construction company in their senior year of high school end up in a post-secondary education program that was construction related? 5 years down the line, are they in a field of employment that is utilizing what they learned in their internship? If not, we'd love to go back out and reach out to them and say, hey, did your internship at least help confirm for you that you didn't want to be in that area? Because I think it's as valuable for a student to figure that out as it is to confirm, like, man, this is really what I want to do the rest of my life. But also being mindful within all of that. I tell kids now, you have a 60-year career ahead of you. And if that turns into 12 mini careers, perfect. Lots of different paths to success. So I don't know if we get to a point where we can really track those post-grad outcomes. It's where I want to be. But I don't necessarily know what my measure of success would be. Like, what percentage of kids do I want to hear back from that they're in the career that their internship was tied to? Because for some of them, I'd be super proud and happy that we gave them that opportunity. For some of them, I might be like, wow, it didn't really seem like you were liking that then. How's that going for you now? It might be better if you had made a switch somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Monica, what can you add?
Yeah, so we definitely track the first three and have that same conundrum in terms of post-graduation outcomes. We do look at graduation outcomes, however. So we look at completion rate, we look at the skills gained in terms of evaluations that we do. We do a midterm and a final evaluation, and every internship, students in terms of our fellowship grant or a financial award have to earn a certain score to get the full amount for each round of awards. If they come in lower, they actually get less money. So it's disincentivizing if they're not demonstrating those work readiness skills. And like I said, we're also tracking their ability to meet the learning objectives that were set by the supervisor. We have surveys both from students and employers that we send out after every single session to make sure that we're getting feedback on how we're doing, what's working, what's not, and then making adjustments. And then we have looked at graduation rates for students who have done an internship as compared to their peers who have not. And we've seen, I think it's 7 to 9% 10% increase in graduation rate.
Great. And Nick, I'm sure that you're tracking many of the similar things. Anything a little unique for you that you can add?
I would just say that outcomes aren't as easy in this area. One of the things I'm proud of is when you think of internships, you think of sending kids out to businesses. I think we've created business opportunities in our schools. So our culinary kids run a cafe. Our autos kids have a service shop where I can get my oil changed. Our, I mentioned our education kids running a preschool. We have job embedded internships within the courses of the school. And so I think there are multiple ways to get at this thing. I think that we shouldn't lose that fact.
Thank you. So I want to thank you all for being willing to share with us a little bit about school day. Is we want to partner with districts to help prepare students for careers, and we're proud of our exclusive K-12 partnership with Coursera to offer over 60 virtual or blended learning kinds of pathways. And even more, though, school day can be a big ally for protecting your student and staff data because of the data sovereignty that we have in our K-12 district programs that we use. Additionally, we provide LMS integration, professional development for CTE teachers. We're able to do fast onboarding and an included career assessment from My Inner Genius to help students find careers that they are passionate about. The CTE pathways in our program are created by industry experts and provide valuable employer recognized certifications. Students earning certifications are well prepared for internships, which can help districts create those stronger partnerships with industry. And so we want to invite you all to explore our website at schoolday.academy and browse our over 60 CTE pathways that are pre-developed. We also can create custom pathways. We have options in tech, business, marketing, real estate, the service industries, and even more. So I'd encourage you to just take a look at our full list online. On the website, you'll also see that School Day Academy offers professional development that goes beyond CTE. And our professional development library is built for teachers, school leaders, IT teams, business office staff, really anyone in a district who wants to keep growing. Because the idea is that we want to help schools create true lifelong learning cultures by giving their staff access to on-demand, high-quality courses that they can take anytime, anywhere. So I want to again thank our panelists for their insights today and invite you all to start a 30-day free trial of School Day Academy, the exclusive K-12 partner of Coursera, with discounted K-12 education pricing that's more than 60% off the normal Coursera pricing. And thank you again. Please reach out to me if I can be of any other assistance. And I hope all of you and our panelists have a great rest of the week. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.